welcome back to the show. It's Liquid Lunch. It's me, Hugh, and Jen Frankel is my co-host, and our guest now is Jacqui Derbecker, and it's been 5 years, Jacqui, I guess.
Yes, it has.
And we're here to talk about these amazing books. One is called Dismantling the Structure of the Ego. I know we took a shot of that, but there it is. That's a fascinating topic all in itself. And this one here, Movement of Stillness as revealed in the new Mayan calendar. So there's a new one because the old one expired in 2012, right?
Yes, that's correct.
That was a long shelf life, though. As far as shelf lives go, was it 30?
I'm not even sure, but it
multiple
finished.
thousands years.
Yes, but it finished. So I think I was on the show. The last time I was on the show, I was channeling the Movement of Stillness book. So I hadn't completed it as yet. So that particular book is channeled.
Now, what does that mean exactly?
What is channeling? So,
I mean, because I'm
I
just
know.
thinking, we just had the music guys on, right?
Yes.
You know, and sometimes it seems to me that any artist, almost, when they've completed a work, I know I feel this way myself, it's like, I didn't do that. It's like, I don't know where that came from, but there it is, right?
No,
it almost feels like
it channels through you. So it's much like any artist, even in speaking, it can just move right through you. So it was the same process. So whether it's a paintbrush, singing, or playing the keyboard, public speaking, people who don't have notes, they're channeling something, or they're just, it's a freeing and allowing yourself for that information to move through you. So it's the same process as the books.
When you channel when you're writing, though, I guess you're going into it consciously knowing that that's going to be the process?
Yeah, and what's interesting is that if you put your own thoughts in the movement of the words, then it will either stop, for me anyway, for me it either stopped or it would repeat itself. Yeah, which is
So
really
if you try to
interesting.
take control, you're out of luck.
If I try to take, I'm a teacher through the day, so for me, language is really important in written word. So for me to stop that process of I should have this word, not this word, it would stop the process. So it's just being free and open, much like an artist. It's the same form of process, the same thing. So both of the books are from, you could call it a free movement of feelings and words moving through me.
So there's no entity that has a name or a planet that they come from?
Yes, there is, actually.
Oh, fantastic.
I know.
I like you said that very hopefully.
The look on his face was...
It's a bonus because it's like getting an extra guest.
Well, what it is, because it freaks people out, right? So when I say as a psychic, and even that is a loaded word for a lot of people,
right?
That because it's something that a lot of people don't understand. It's a bit odd, a bit unusual, and it is. So when I say I channeled the information, the first book came from Edgar Cayce.
Who himself was a channeler.
Yes. So...
I think we're going down a rabbit hole here.
Okay, get ready.
No, it's exciting.
Okay, get ready. So I do medium work as well. So in order to write this first book, Movement of Stillness, I tapped into Edgar Cayce's energy so I could see him and feel him and recognize his words. I know that sounds
Wait, I thought he got
odd.
reincarnated as David Wilcock.
Oh, maybe so. Maybe so.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
All right.
So I tapped into his energy, and I literally heard him and felt his energy provide me the information for the book. Yeah.
And when you're channeling and writing, are you actually conscious of what you're doing?
I am.
So you have to actually keep out of your own way, I guess.
Okay, that's a really good question, how to explain that. I'm consciously aware, but I'm not consciously aware all at the same time. If I work, so in other words, after it's done, after I do my writing and I read it, that's the first time that I'll be reading it.
Right.
But I know I'm writing it. Okay, but I don't know what I'm writing, because if I know what I'm writing, then I want to correct it and rejig the language. So I have to be there using discernment, but not all at the same time. Does that make sense?
It's kind of fascinating because I know that Edgar Cayce did all of his channeling when he was not consciously aware of what he was doing. Right? He actually went to sleep and spoke.
Well, he was known as the sleeping prophet.
Right.
He was absolutely brilliant.
Let me ask you, because this book says Channel Prophecies from Edgar Casey. What are some of the prophecies that are in the book?
Yeah, okay.
And are any of them about Hugh personally?
About me?
No, about Hugh.
She asked it. I
Every
did.
single
I know
one
you wanted to ask. I know you.
dedicated to Hugh. Listen up. So the title of it, Movement of Stillness, all of the prophecies, I can go into some specific ones, all of the prophecies are pinpointing towards a movement of going back to our original self.
As individuals, you mean?
Yeah, as individuals. So being kind, being loving, going back to our original self. So when we were born as love. And then we start to be programmed and conditioned by our parents, by schooling, by social media, by government, by all other components and pieces, and we start to believe something different. So what all the prophecies, they're hooking into, we're going back to natural, we're going back to taking care of ourselves, where all of us are feeling, or maybe not all of us, well, all of us are feeling a nudge to go in a direction of what do we really want to do? Who are we? What do we really want to become? So that nudge is this movement that's coming forward. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if it does it to you.
Does it make sense to you?
In a way, except it only makes me want to ask about those elongated skulls they found in South America.
Yeah.
The non-human skulls with the large skeletons.
I've seen stuff about that.
Right?
I don't know.
Yeah.
What is that?
Well, that's what I want to ask you about. I don't know.
I'll do some Googling before the next show, and I'll get back to you on that.
So what did they find? They found skulls that...
near near the shores of Lake Titicaca. I love saying that word.
Yeah.
They have ancient
talking about penis.
stoneworks there, like ancient, super. Mm-hmm. They don't know even how they were made. They
Like
look machined.
ruins? Are they ruins?
There's ruins there. Mm-hmm. And they've also found skulls there with these elongated.
Wow.
Like the
Crania.
skulls are much larger
Wow.
than human skulls,
Mm-hmm.
and the structure of them is different. Mm-hmm. And they have very large, like whatever jaws,
Mm-hmm.
like, and they found the skeletons are like 2.5 meters tall, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I know it's just weird, right?
It is weird.
And they found other
is
weird artifacts down there, like an ancient obsidian pyramid
Oh, wow.
with an eye on top, just like on the U.S. Dollar bill,
Right.
Just a lot of, just more of the mysteries that I don't think anybody really knows.
Yeah. And that's part of mystery that sometimes we may never know.
Right.
It may
Yeah.
always be that it's like a matrix, so the mystery is within inside the matrix of whatever that is.
Right.
I'd be interested in knowing their conclusion or calculation is what that is. That's fascinating.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's fascinating.
It is.
It's kind of interesting though, thinking about how we're actually doing a lot of underwater archaeology now too, like looking at places that were above water during the last ice age. So in the same way that we're looking into history, you're actually looking into personal history. We're going back and looking at things that we've covered up with the things that have happened later. I remember hearing a story from a friend that his daughter had really struggled all her life with who she was and what she wanted to do, and it wasn't until she actually went back to her first love, which was horses. She loved horses when she was a kid, and now she's actually breeds horses and has a ranch, and it was like she had to return to who she was meant to be, and she knew that when she was young, but she'd forgotten. It had gotten covered up with all the expectations. Is that the kind of thing you're talking about?
Well, that's what the Dismantling the Structure of the Ego is all about. Everything gets covered up with expectations, conditioning. I like to call it in this book illusion, covered up by illusion. So who are you once you start to peel off those layers and discover who you really are? What do you really want to do? Is it realistic to make steps forward in that direction, or are you so caught up in that
Right.
you can't move out? And so the work that I do is I help people come out of that. It might be connected to a past life. It might be connected to some tough things that happen in the family. So
Right.
what is ego? So in the book, I talk about it as illusion.
The
It's
ego is illusion.
It is an illusion. I think so. There's a poem, the Cherokee poem, where the grandfather is talking to grandson and saying that there are two parts. You can feed the ego, the suffering, the pain, or you can feed the joy, the love, and the divinity of who you are. It's who you feed, that which manifests. So the more that we create ego, the more that we feed ego, the more we're going to manifest, and therefore we get polarities, we get conflict, we get struggle, and that's war. So when are we going to say enough already with our own selves and step into who we really are, which is just simply, you can use the word love. That's always a heavy, granola flip-flop word, right? Love. You could say peace, who I really am, the I am, who am I?
It's funny, we're talking about mindfulness, actually, in terms of being an artist in the interview that we just did. Mm-hmm. I'm really curious about the idea, though, that we have to deal with all the things that we've... Well, I had a friend who sorry, I just keep mentioning all these friends of mine. I haven't brought them on the show or anything. But the
friends, that's good.
Yeah, so the idea that if you believe in past lives, a lot of us struggle with those issues through maybe the first 30 or 40 years of our lives. We're still working on
or maybe the whole life.
Yeah,
or maybe lifetimes.
Yeah, sometimes we're still struggling with the crap from the previous lives. Yeah. But it seems to me that what's happening in the world is a breakdown of this reliance on the externals. We seem to be... I'm not sure if we're less superficial, but I think we're actually intensely superficial, but we seem to be recognizing that and fighting against it in a way that I don't think previous generations have.
Exactly. That's what the movement of stillness is all about. That's what's going on. It's the nudging of going into who are you really, what's really going on.
Right.
It's really, really important to watch the children. I teach kindergarten through the day, and the little children before the age of 5, they're still so close to spirit and the conditions of family and ego. But
no one's taught them to be racist. No one's taught them to be sexist.
Exactly. Not yet. About the age of 7, this starts to kick in. But they're so pure. They're just the natural child, and so they will say and be who they really are. Mm-hmm. So I always feel that they're the teachers. They don't have the conditioning or the triggers. Right. So if a child is told they have an ugly smile, then they will start to believe it, and they'll start to not smile on their pictures. Then they'll start to create it into more, I'm an ugly person, and then they start to create more and more and more of that ego-based conditioning, which is all not real.
So we're actually furthering other people's problems, because if somebody tells a child they've got an ugly smile, that person's a jerk.
Yeah.
And there's probably something going on there.
Yeah.
So you just see things transmitted from generation to generation.
Yeah, and now it's time to stop it.
That sounds good.
It's being aware of it. It's being aware of what's going on of your own self inside of your own self.
Like stopping the cycle of poisoned egos.
Oh, I like that.
I'm all about coining phrases on this show.
That is, I love that. I love that because it's a poison. It's insanity. And then you wake up and you start to realize that everything that I was taught and that I was believing is actually not real.
Right.
It was a lie.
Do you remember that poster, Everything I or the book, I guess, Everything I Learned, Everything I Needed to Know I Learned in Kindergarten?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like that's exactly what we need to get back to.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I totally agree. Absolutely. And I look at the word ego. I mean, this has been coined by somebody else, but EGO, so edging grace out or edging God out, whatever you want to call that, edging that out. And once we start to realize who are we really and releasing those pieces that are no longer who we really are, that we've been conditioned to believe. You could think of it as a deprogramming and reprogramming.
Right.
Sounds like a lot of work.
I know. I knew you'd say that.
You did? Because you're psychic, right?
That's not how it works. I mean, I've never met a psychic who won the lottery, for example.
But
you're hanging out with the wrong psychics.
Oh my gosh, the psychics that won the lottery won't take my phone calls. That's the problem.
But it sounds overwhelming. It does sound overwhelming, but it's one step at a time. So that's why we have, there's more yoga, there's more meditation, more people are talking like this, there's more art, there's more creativity. That's the movement.
Right.
It's starting to happen.
Let me ask you about this, because you've got some points on the cover of Dismantling the Structure of the Ego. One of them is recognizing there is no longer a now moment.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I thought that was the whole thing, that there only is the now moment.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So what does that mean?
Okay, yeah. So this is how thick ego is. This is how big, how huge ego has been created. So now we have to be taught the teachings of the now moment. So now we have to be present, be here, be now, so we can feel who we really are, our peace, our joy, our stillness. One now moment at a time. That's how thick ego is. So once you start taking off those old programmed ideas and you start to release ego-based concepts and beliefs, then there is no now moment, because you're living every now moment without knowing the now moment, because you are already clean and with inside of that. Does that make sense? So they could, okay. So they could, I'm short-circuiting you. I can see that. So the teaching of the now moment needed to happen in order for us to come to stillness. That's how thick the ego is.
Do you know what it's like?
Does that make sense? Are you
do you
still?
know what okay, did you drive a car, Hugh?
I have driven a car.
I think it's almost like you've been driving along in reverse or doing donuts or something. But in order to go forward in the right direction, you have to actually come to a complete stop first.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Because otherwise you'll strip the gears. Oh no! Did I blow? Okay, I'm not allowed to blow Hugh's mind. I don't want to do that.
I'm gonna have to do some donuts and see if I can figure out what you're talking about.
So,
I'm not saying I spent a lot of time doing donuts, and that's why I no longer have a car. Because that sounds exciting, but that's not the reason.
No.
No. I live in Toronto. That's why I don't have a car.
Well, yeah. If you look at it from meditation, yoga, you slow right down. When you slow right down to that now moment, how do you feel? Usually really good. So the feeling of that good is who you really are. It's much like if you go into the forest. The forest, it's transparent and love. It doesn't have ego. So most people who go to a forest, you feel your own energy in the forest because there's no ego. So often when you go to a garden or you need water, there's nothing going on there with respect to ego, because you're connecting to your true, transparent self of love. So once that starts to dissolve, then you start to feel more at ease, and you don't have to go into studying a now moment, because you are already living it. Thus the title, Movement of Stillness, or a walking meditation, walking prayer, walking in my fantasy idealistic place. I would love to see the world at some point not need meditation classes,
Right.
not need those types of forms, because we're already there. No, that maybe one day that will happen. I think it will, but we probably won't be around at that point. Does that
And
make
I think
sense?
that's something that scares a lot of people away from, thinking about things as a new age movement or something like that. People hear that they've got to do this to achieve this, and immediately what most people hear, I think, is someone's trying to sell me something, someone's trying to get money so that they can teach me how to do something. And there's a suspicion, I think, among people who don't want to try things.
Yeah.
And I got to say, I'm not a good follower. I don't like doing programs or classes or so I've struggled with trying to do something like yoga, because I don't want to be in a yoga class. I don't want to be with a whole bunch of other people. So I've done things where I've learned things from books and found other methods to get there. And I think that's a big deal, that there's a lot of people who aren't willing or able to come to this kind of stillness through the methods that are being presented as well.
Exactly. It just feels like you will be presented with that if you're open for that. Even just being kind to yourself, to start with that. But what's really interesting is that we are born as happiness, and now we have to go and buy a book on the shelf. How to be happy. Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah.
You can go and on retreats, weekend retreats, you can go on cruises, you can go to workshops, how to be happy. I just find it fascinating. When that's how we were born, we just have to somehow find those conditions of what we were believing, which is not true. It's fascinating.
Well, it goes.
Are you happy, Hugh?
Am I happy?
Are you happy?
Are you happy?
Not as happy as I'd like to be. Know what I'm saying?
I think that's a good answer. That's kind of the way I feel about it too. And when I am happy, I'd like to find a way to sustain that. For
I
sure.
mean, this goes to the whole idea of like, what is the, what's the meaning of life really? What is, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure there's an answer
Yeah.
to that question.
Maybe it's just a feeling. Maybe it's just
And is it to be happy,
feeling.
or is there something higher that we are, gaining through the struggle and the suffering and that are probably inevitable? I don't know if we can, I don't know if heaven is something that we're going to experience on a ongoing basis in this human life. I don't know. I don't know.
I guess the question is, how does a happy person deal with tragedy or challenges compared to how an unhappy person does? And if the happy person is better suited to actually meet challenges, deal with an accident, deal with death, deal with other tragedy, deal with pressure, I guess that's the question: is a happy person somebody who's actually stripped away the ego? Are you more able to deal with things as they arise in life and now?
Yeah, and it depends what you mean by happy. What does happy mean?
Right.
Is it peace? Is it stillness? Or is that just another one of those loaded words?
Like chemically induced happiness.
Yeah, exactly. And what makes you? What is it? What is that feeling anyway?
Well, I don't know the answer, Jackie.
Well, I'm looking at you. You should.
If I read these books, might I have a better idea?
Yes.
And where can people get these books?
Online at Chapters, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Balboa, which is a sister company to Hay House,
And they
or
can-
me
Or you?
as well.
And what's your website?
My website is www, of course, Jacqui Consults, JACQUI, and Consults, CONSULTS
Dot
.com.
And besides the books, what is the other work that you're doing? Like, if people hire you to do stuff?
Yeah.
And
So,
yeah.
okay, so I do public speaking, I do motivational speaking, I teach meditation, I teach psychic development, I do remotes over the phone, I've done book launches, I do psychic readings, I do mediumship, I do past lives as well.
Great. And you're based in Barrie?
I am based in Barrie. I have a Toronto office,
Yeah?
just near the Pape subway station. I have a Peterborough office, and soon to be a Niagara-on-the-Lake office.
That is fantastic.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, it's been great to have you on the show today.
Thank
and
you.
I understand you may be starting your own show at some point in the future.
Yes, I will.
So we will keep everybody informed about all that.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming in
Thank
today.
you. Thank you.
So Liquid Lunch is going to continue. We've got Christopher Oliphant coming up next, and we're going to be talking about relationships. And then we're going to have some more music, so it's going to be awesome. So we'll see you on the other side here on thatchannel.com.